I am Jean Brownhill. I'm the founder and CEO of Sweeten.com. And I just want to thank you all for coming out today to hear about renovating in Brooklyn. We do a lot of renovations at Sweeten. We are renovation matchmakers, which means we help homeowners and small business owners find great general contractors from our curated network. And then we actually stay involved in the project from the very beginning, absolutely to the very end of the project. So we have 3 homeowners that all renovated using Sweeten general contractors, but most importantly, they all renovated in Brooklyn. So we're going to share their stories of renovating in Brooklyn. So first we have Jerry, who renovated with his wife Janet. They have a row house in Crown Heights. Actually, it might be fun. I'll say your names and then just give like the 30-second version of your renovation. And it's the one with the little flower, the plant back there.
Sure. Hey everybody, I'm Jerry. So my wife and I have a row house, a townhouse in Crown Heights of Brownstone, and it was a gut renovation, and we basically didn't know what we were getting into, but we jumped in and renovated the whole building, and turned out okay. So.
I like that as like a bar. Yeah. I'm still alive.
Exactly.
All right, next we have Molly. And Molly is a film editor who renovated in Fort Greene. She renovated a studio, and hers is the center project with those amazing blue cabinets and that great wallpaper.
Hi. I've been in my apartment for about 10 years, had never done anything to it, and was sort of in that point where it's Brooklyn, it's increasing in value, should I sell, should I try and move? But I decided instead to stay put and renovate and redid my kitchen and bathroom in a very much of a, I'm just gonna make this be exactly how I want it, and so I can stay for another 10 years.
Nice. And last we have Kumar. Kumar's is that kitchen with the baby, and if you've been to the Sweeten homepage, it's actually the photo on our homepage for a while. Kumar and his wife Casey are both designers, and they renovated in the Clinton Hill Co-ops. We do a lot of renovations in those buildings if folks are familiar with them.
We purchased a 1-bedroom apartment in the Clinton Hill Co-ops and had to figure out how to fit a family of 4 into it. So you'll see when we kind of, I think, click through some pictures.
Yeah, we're
how
going
we
to get to
did
photos
that.
of our
Yeah.
All right. Well, first up, all right, so we're going to start with Jerry's project. And as we know, that's the outside of it. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the facade, but I just want to get to some befores just to set everybody's expectations of what Jerry started with. Before, amazing bathroom.
So yeah, the place had not been renovated. No major structural changes, maybe a little here and there since it was built. I think this was like one minor renovation in the 80s at one point. This bathroom. So.
And I love the drop ceiling. That's like a real classy touch there. Okay. So this is the after. Amazing. We were really fortunate to help Jerry and Janet find their general contractor to do the work. And I'd just love to talk to you about, like what you were able, so I'm just going to go back really quickly. So there were some good bones here, right? Like it's Brooklyn, you wanted kind of historic Brooklyn, and you guys did save quite a few of the details, but you also modernized it and certainly made it custom to kind of your vision. Just talk about like how you made those choices.
Yeah, sure. So in the building had 4 units, and we wanted to keep one for ourselves and then have the rest for renting out. And we wanted to keep as much of the historical as possible and the nice little touches that we could salvage. And so we that included the hardwood floors that we were hoping to keep, and a lot of the we're trying to keep everything basically, everything we could basically. So the details, the moldings, and even to the point of the medallions around the lighting in the rooms and the fireplaces, of course. And so, I mean, in the process, and while doing that, we also wanted to make it more modern too. So we took, each floor were 2-bedroom apartments, and we were trying to make them just really nice 1-bedroom apartments, really comfortable with like a more open layout. And so, in the process, we, in the demolition phase where they were trying to preserve like certain walls for structure and this and that, basically, some stuff was salvageable, but most of it was like basically crumbling down around us, unfortunately. And like the medallions around the light fixtures were just like crumbling after doing a little work nearby, and so we had to just decide to keep what we could, and then go from there.
And talk a little bit. So it looks like the kitchen is now in a new location. So that means you had to like move water lines, gas lines, like everything. Did you? I mean, that's a huge decision.
Yeah,
and it certainly had a lot of cost implications.
Right. I mean, right. So we moved all the kitchens to a more a central location that made it more, that worked with the open layout, and then the bathroom locations were actually the same, but we renovated that. So I mean, this is all new to me. So we learned that for the kitchens, I mean, for these kind of things where there's plumbing and these kind of electrical lines, they have to just be, is ideally to be lined up vertically from the different apartments. And so that's kind of how we decided the location.
Nice. And they're obviously beautiful, much more spacious, although I guess that old kitchen was kind of towards the back of the house before.
Right.
And now they're more central.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so like with the kitchen, we try to do as much to keep costs, because it was overall a kind of expensive project, more than we had bargained for, to be honest with you. But we wanted to get nice appliances. You can see here that there's a Bosch fridge and some, but the rest of the kitchen is actually all IKEA, actually, for the rest of that. It's just like stock IKEA stuff. And then we put in the backsplash, I think it's called, with the tiling, which was not IKEA. It's just like a nicer touch. That cost a little more, but just added a lot to it, we thought. So we were trying to do things within a budget. And then you can see below that the lines on the hardwood floor are kind of like old detailing from the old layout of the hardwood floor that were just left over from, because we knocked down some walls there to make this whole space very open. So.
Neat. I like that, though. I like leaving the kind of trace memory of the layout before it. I think that's cool. All right, let's see. We've got, and this is one of the rental apartments upstairs. So this is where you took a 2-bedroom and made it a more spacious 1-bedroom.
Right. Yeah. So that wall right next to the bed, where the head of the bed is actually an existing wall, and then on the other side is like a walk-in closet, which used to be the old kitchen, actually. So with this, it was just our layout was just to make it. And then we took the other bedroom and made it the kitchen you just saw. So we just kind of made it everything we just took advantage of some existing walls and made it like that. The windows, the moldings around the windows are all original, and we just painted over dark, and we put in new windows to make it more like, modern.
Yeah. No, it looks great, and I love that it still feels like a Brooklyn row house, but it definitely has been updated. I think sometimes you see the interiors of these spaces, and they're completely wiped out. And you kind of wonder what was there before. And it's very clear. I like that the layout is still, it still looks like a Brooklyn row house. It looks great.
Thanks.
So this was probably like a little.
Yeah, the closet.
Is that the closet?
The walk-in
that's
closet.
the other side of the wall.
Yeah. Here's our bathroom.
Oh wow, that's a big change from the bathroom. Talk about the.
Yeah. So we the bathroom that you saw in the earlier picture had to be redone completely. Obviously, there's actually like leaking, like the drop ceiling had a leak. Whenever someone above you had to flush the toilet, there'd be like a waterfall in the bathroom. But anyway, so we took the idea of subway tiles. We got longer white subway tiles, and then got like a more matte tiling on the ground, on the flooring, to make it just more comfortable, and just updated everything.
Is there really no shower curtain in that bathroom?
This is right before we installed the shower curtain. So there is one. So
It's like,
yeah.
that is a
But that would've been
very
cool
modern,
idea.
very
Yeah.
modern
Yeah,
touch.
right.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for sharing your project, Jerry. I'm going to come back to you and ask you some more questions, but just want to make sure that we see. All right, here's Molly's. So Molly's, let's see the befores.
This photo is so embarrassing. I had no idea that anybody was going to see this, and it has been in so many places on the internet. My aunt saw it and was like, why didn't you just clean up your kitchen? It looks like that's the only problem. But there were other problems. And that's the bathroom.
There's the bathroom.
And there's the new
answer.
kitchen.
Yeah, so talk to us about, I mean, a little bit of this story. I know the background. You said that you lived there for 10 years and you were thinking about moving.
Yes, and I had always, I mean, the kitchen and bathroom were both done. They did one of those sort of hasty IKEA renovations before I bought it. So I very much moved in knowing that I wouldn't have to do any work, which is exactly what I wanted at the time. But I also knew that there was just no way I was using all the space correctly. Like the kitchen, especially for a studio apartment, the kitchen is actually very large. It's a 500 square foot studio, and I wasn't sure when I was looking if I wanted to buy a studio, and it was the kitchen that sold me on the apartment. I was like, I like to cook, and it was just like, okay, there's this extra space. It's just what I fell in love with, but I always knew that like there's no way that the dishwasher should be sticking out like that, and that I should be cramming this table into the corner where nobody can sit at it. So,
And just for context, this
Yes.
building was built in like 1920s.
20, yes.
Yeah. So this is an apartment building in Fort Greene, and I just want to go back to the original. So if you see, you can pretty much tell that, yeah, like you said, a very quick IKEA/Home Depot renovation was done.
yeah, exactly. And the seller just sort of wanted to give it a quick once-over and get it off her hands. She actually moved into another apartment in the building, which I felt was a good sign at the time. Yeah.
So maybe
sorry.
just talk to us about, I really like that you said that you were not thinking about resale, that you were just thinking about making it your own and really making decisions that made you happy. Talk about like what you feel like were obviously we see you did incredible wallpaper, for example.
Yes. We were joking about this. I'm consistent. I like prints, especially prints that have animals on them. And doing it for myself was sort of my guiding principle going into the renovation. I don't know anything about the real estate market. I don't know anything about renovation or construction or design. I just know what I like. So I knew that I wanted the space. There were certain things I wanted, like I wanted a dishwasher, but I wanted to hide it somewhere. I wanted wallpaper. I've always been obsessed with wallpaper. Again, prints and the patterns. You can see that in the floor.
Look at that floor.
Too. Yeah.
And that to the left, that's the dishwasher. That looks like a filing cabinet, right?
Yes, that drawer, the top drawer on the left there is a little pull-out dishwasher. So it's perfect for, I'm one person. I don't fill up a full-size dishwasher that fast. So this drawer, this pull-out is the perfect size for me. Paulina, who was the designer, and I used to design build firm, so she was sort of the head of that.
I actually think I see poking out of the back there.
Oh,
Hi,
good.
Paulina.
I knew she said she was going to. Oh, hi. She had just installed one of these for her parents. So she was like, I can vouch for it. You're going to love it. And I do. So I had, I basically had a list of priorities and didn't know how to translate that into a design, which is sort of what I approach Sweeten with, and why I always tell everybody who asks me about renovating that it helps so much to work with a designer, because you can just be like, here's what I want, now translate this into the terms that speak room.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, and actually, there was one other detail. So I think, if you can see those teacups up there, that was part of like the design motivation, which I also kind of like. It does have kind of not just a Brooklyn feel, but also like taking these things that are personal and kind of like important to your history, and then translating them into the space if you want to.
Yeah, my mom, right after I bought the apartment, my mom was at an antique store in Maine and said, I found a full set of Wedgwood china here for $300. Do you want that as your housewarming present? And I said, okay. And I actually used a lot of it. I used the plates and the bowls and everything, but had this sort of full tea set and all these serving dishes that I had no idea what to do with, and were just sort of crammed up in the back of a cabinet. And Paulina, on our first sort of walkthrough, opened the cabinet and saw them, and I could like see the light bulb go off. She was really kind of inspired by that. So these shelves were always, I knew I wanted storage on that wall, but we always sort of earmarked those shelves as like for the tea set.
That's awesome. All right, and
Here's
here's
the
the
bathroom.
after of the bathroom. More pattern.
More pattern. It's funny, we went back, and the bathroom was actually, the kitchen design fell into place very quickly, even though we made more changes to the layout. The bathroom, we went back and forth more times because I think I had less of an idea of what I wanted. I just wanted something that really captured something fresh and beautiful, you know? I didn't want a white bathroom. I didn't know exactly what I wanted. Paulina sent me a design. It's like, okay, what can I, and I said, point me to where I can look for tiles. So I went on a tile website, Tile Bar, I think.
I have a feeling you looking for tiles was like kind of a dream. You were like pattern and color.
Exactly.
And I like got lost for days. And
Totally. It was like, oh, I just get to like scroll through all these pretty things. And I basically picked 5 different tiles that weren't going to work. I didn't know that, but I was like, here's 5 things that I think are pretty. And I sent them to Paulina, and she sort of took that and synthesized it and came back with this and said, well,
That's
none
great.
of those are going to work, but check out this chevron was the pattern we looked at initially. They also make it in hexagons for the wall, and we both just kind of fell in love with it.
Great. Is there a wallpaper with almost like a
is.
topography map or something? What is
Elephants.
that? Oh, okay. More animals.
Yes.
Animal wallpaper. That's
Everybody
awesome.
warned me about putting wallpaper in the bathroom, but I really wanted to put some kind of design element on that wall. And once I found the gray and white, and it's these rows of elephants that get slowly larger and smaller, and it's just adorable. So I put it on. If it peels in 2 years and I have to replace it, it's my fault. But I bought a whole roll. It's in a cabinet. If I need
That's
to re-wallpaper, I will.
Well, and there's lots of wallpaper vendors here as well. I'm sure you can also get a new one if you want to. All right. Well, thank you so much for walking us through. So Kumar, as opposed to our other 2 homeowners, you're actually a designer yourself.
That's right. I studied architecture and work as an architect. So setting about our own renovation was a different kind of prospect.
Well, no, and I love that, we can really see in all of our homeowners. Oh, here's your before. Well, I'll walk through the befores, but one of the things, I love that all of our homeowners have really interpreted, internalized, and you can really see the different personalities in each one of them. So you'll definitely see your designer personality, I think, come out when you see the after. So here's the befores. This is in Clinton Hill Co-ops, if you guys are familiar with them. At Sweeten, we've done, I don't know, probably like 40 renovations by now in these buildings. Oh, already to and after. Here are the incredible after. So that's actually the same perspective, correct?
Ish, yeah.
So maybe just talk about when you walked into this space as a designer, how you could possibly envision it turning into this.
Well, so I sort of started by saying that I and my wife have 2 little kids, and we desperately wanted to stay in the neighborhood, but we're, sort of searching out a way to afford that. And so we wanted to buy an apartment, and what we decided to do was try to turn a 1-bedroom into something that we could all live in together. This happens a lot. Actually, the Clinton Hill Co-ops are designed in a way that makes them extremely flexible. There's only one structural element in this sort of main public space with the kitchen and living and dining rooms, which means you can chop it up in all different ways. Most people put the nursery in what is supposed to be the dining room because there's an existing wall there, and it's sort of very convenient and easy to sort of portion off.
Let me see if we have. I guess
Yeah,
this is
it's
the
to the
only,
right in
It's
that
It's that
picture.
little space to the right.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's backwards.
Here
It's
is where you would sort of naturally,
Yeah.
sort of section it off. But because kids go to sleep so early, little kids, and this is sort of the main space of the house, which is actually the main space where my wife and I get to actually spend time together after work, we decided to give the kids the master bedroom. And so, and actually there's no pictures of that here because after the renovation, for at least a couple of months, it was basically like a storage unit with like a bunch of boxes, which I'm not supposed to admit. But what it meant was ultimately that our bedroom was built into the living. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at the screen that you guys can't see. That our bedroom is basically built into the living room of the apartment. And so there's a Murphy bed which folds down out of a wall of millwork. Right, so here you are looking at the actual seating area, and it's off to the right in this image that these sort of doors close off that space, and then the bed comes down, for sleeping. So it allowed us to keep the plan of these shared spaces in the apartment as open as possible to sort of maximize the feeling of space as much as possible.
and so here.
And that extends to the kitchen as well because, ultimately, and maybe actually if you just click back to the before picture real fast, the way that these apartments were designed in 1940, there were different assumptions around what types of activities people engaged in at home, and I think kitchens were generally kind of like, they were thought of as support spaces that wanted to be far away from the sort of social spaces of the house. So the kitchen is actually behind this kind of L-shaped wall.
It's like that little nook that looks like a closet in the back.
Right.
That's into the kitchen.
So like any designer, we're like, open it up. But what that meant was creating a kitchen which felt like it could participate in the sort of slightly more dressed up spaces of the living room. So what we're looking at here is this same kitchen space, but actually without the walls. We decided to remove the refrigerator from the kitchen and the pantry, and sorry, but can you click back to the refrigerator moved across the hallway and basically became a kind of freestanding element.
So behind those doors are the refrigerator and freezer?
Right, so it's a fully integrated refrigerator and freezer on the right, and then on the left, the sort of super tall door is like 80 mason jars full of Cheerios and coffee and almonds.
See, it is very Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, okay, so to speak to the point about historic renovation in a way, our context in Brooklyn was different from, I think, what the majority might imagine in terms of like the sort of 19th century townhouses. This is a brick tower in a campus of towers that was built in 1940 as part of a pilot project that later sort of spawned projects like Stuytown and eventually like all of the sort of brick public housing, which are sort of famous and sort of scary in some ways in terms of the history of design. I don't think that a lot of people go into brick towers like that and try to celebrate the design principles that they sort of embody, but as architects we sort of geek out on it actually. So, what we're not doing here is looking at a kind of Victorian context. It's much more of a kind of early modernism that we're after. Of course, we want some sort of softer, warmer materials in there, which is why we chose the soapstone and the walnut for the main kitchen cabinetry. But really everything else stays in this kind of just off-white palette with dark metal fittings, because honestly, if we had more before photos, you would see that it looks a lot like the apartment that we bought and renovated. We joke that the only reason that we renovated was actually to get a dishwasher in there. But
Well, no, and these apartments are certainly, they're large and they're really well located, and they're actually kind of blank canvases. So that's another thing that I really love about those spaces, is that they do have design principles and they get a ton of light and air, but the inside is kind of, people make it what they want. It's still open enough that your renovation is certainly very specific and beautiful, but everybody's interpretation of it's almost like really a blank canvas, those spaces.
It's true, and actually, if you Google search Clinton Hill Co-op renovation, you'll see some that look like super slick condo from Midtown or something like that, and you have no idea that you're in a brick tower from 1940. I'm not necessarily claiming that you would know that from this picture either, but it's true that people have all different sort of approaches to renovating these spaces, and in a way they are extraordinarily flexible.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the co-op buildings in general. But
are people familiar with the Clinton Hill co-ops? And maybe we're talking about a housing that people don't know, but I think that if you think about Stuytown or any of those other large residential complexes, it's very similar to that. And then people have really just taken these really great apartments and done beautiful renovations like this one to really reflect how they want to live in them and how they want to see themselves. All right. Well, let me see our time check. How are we doing on time? We're good? Okay. I definitely have some more questions. I would love to just overall talk to you guys about, this is a panel about renovating in Brooklyn, but I would love to just hear your thoughts about renovating in general. I know, so Kumar is from the industry and you guys are obviously not. What was the biggest takeaway, or what, when you wake up in your new space in the morning, how do you feel, and what do you wish you knew when you started? There's a lot of questions in one.
I don't work I know nothing about renovation. I don't work in that industry, but I do work in the film industry. So the thing I learned about renovating is that it is like any creative process where you decide what's important to you and then you collaborate with people to make that happen. So figuring out how to be a good collaborator was really important to the process, and sort of being very aware of what I knew and what I didn't know also helped me a lot, because one of the reasons I ended up working with Paulina, who I found through Sweeten, was just instantly, just setting up the initial appointment was so easy that I was like, okay, these guys have their act together. And that was not true from a lot of the companies I contacted. It was very hard to just set up the initial consultation, and it was like, if this is what the communication is like, that is not a good sign.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, sort of figuring out who my collaborators were going to be and how we were going to work together was a huge part of it. And
I love that. I think it's so interesting. So many people who are really successful professionally, when they go to renovate, seem to be so disoriented that all of a sudden their standards of professionalism are somehow skewed. And we do so much to screen for general contractors that have the highest level of customer service and professionalism. So it makes me very happy that you immediately saw the difference in the GCs that we have. Jerry, I know that you guys took on a really big project as your first project. A full townhouse. Any thoughts on just best practices or what you learned?
I can speak of the experience. So it was our first time doing any of this kind of renovation, and before we started, we were just flipping through TV. We're like, oh, we love this HGTV. It seems like it's easy. And these are the prices. That's what they do. This is how much it costs. And then after we did this renovation, when we started, we're like, this is totally not like TV. This is just totally, and that's how naive we were. But, and we were like, well, how do we start? And we were just Google searching, someone to help us rebuild the brownstone gut renovation, and that's where we were. And I was on brownstoner.com just looking up stuff and messaging people who were active on it and stuff like that. And then when we started working, the take-home thing is, it's renovation is for people new to it. It's a lot, and especially I feel also New York City specifically, Brooklyn or Manhattan or whatever. There are all these extra rules and all these things that you have to happen for city. So to even start work, it's actually crazy. There is people just to help you get things like wait in line for you, like the expediter. Does everyone know what an expediter is here? I mean, people know what that is? I mean, so for the people that don't, just in brief, basically to get like approval for plans for any kind of work to be done, it has to be submitted to the city, right? And then there's some office in that this stuff has to be processed. But to get it processed, you can't just walk over there. Like I can't just go over there. I guess I could and walk over there and then wait in line.
If you wanted a different day job, you could definitely stand in the Department of Buildings.
Yeah, it's like this Department of Buildings, and there's like, but basically you in the New York City to get anything done, you have to hire someone just to wait in line for you, and who knows like where to go and how to get things done, or else things won't get done. And so, and that was just like another thing that I didn't know about.
Yeah. There's definitely, I mean, getting any of these projects done. I think people often, because of HGTV, and certainly I love all those programs, but it does make it seem like, oh, after commercial break, like the project is completely done. And there is a lot of collaboration, as you said, and just a lot of process that goes into a renovation. So I just wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek of what's coming up on the Sweeten blog. All these projects were featured on our blog, and we have a bunch more coming up for Brooklyn Renovations. So we have a duplex in Brooklyn Heights, and that's the before and after. You're getting a little preview. Here's a Park Slope apartment, the before and after. And a townhouse in Bed-Stuy, which is a huge project. We're really excited to feature this one as well. So if you go to our blog, you can definitely see much more Brooklyn renovations and renovations all over Manhattan and the 5 boroughs, really. Well, I just want to say thank you guys so much, not only for being on the panel today, but just in general, letting us share your story and your space. It's it's a very intimate process, and I know it's very stressful. And the fact that you guys let us share it is really, it means a lot to us. So thank you for being here today, and just thank you for trusting us with your renovations.